Harnessing your creative energy can help you make bolder moves in your career and build relationships you never imagined. My guest today is known as a producer of everything, and she's here to talk about how she helps creative make big moves on stage, on screen, and in the workplace. And part of her talent is helping people deal with the uncertainty of their industry and how to handle work's ever-changing landscape. Join me and my guest, Megan Kingery, as we unpack what you can do if you are uncertain about where your career is headed, or if you're ready to make a big move and need a little inspiration to get there. Let's get started. Hello, my friends. This is the Mid-Career GPS podcast, and I'm your host, John Nerrill. I help mid-career professionals like you find a job they love or love the job they have using my proven 4-step formula. If you're a fan of Broadway, you are going to enjoy a very special part of this episode where I ask Megan some questions about her favorite shows and actors. But you're also not going to want to miss a part of this episode that includes why a lot of aspiring Broadway actors abandon their dream at mid-career and move on to something else. And where do they go? Megan Kingery's primary mediums include theater, digital and mobile technologies, film, television, and graphic novels. Megan basically says that if you can imagine it, she can figure out a way to make it. But one of Megan's exceptional talents is helping these people see the entire matrix. They look at the entire production or they look at the entire landscape that's in front of them, and she helps them stay calm at the center of a hurricane. So one of the reasons why I asked Megan to be on the show, because for some of you that are either currently navigating a reorganization or your company is being acquired and there is uncertainty about what might be next, staying calm amidst the chaos is a much needed skill and desired trait, not only for your self-care, but for how you bring that into your teams and your leadership at your current organization. So, the curtain's going up. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Megan Kingery. Megan Kingery, welcome to the Mid-Career GPS podcast. I'm honored to have you here with us today.
Hello, I am so happy to be here.
Oh my gosh, I wish our listeners could have heard all of the laughs we had before we got recording, but that'll probably come out in the conversation anyway. Megan, you've got this incredible background, and I shared part of it in the introduction. We're going to get into all of that today, but please share with my listeners, what was your mid-career moment?
Absolutely. So my mid-career moment, and we'll talk a little bit about, I want to preface this by saying I had a wild time in my 20s and early 30s. I bounced around indie theater for a long time. I took a lot of really kind of random jobs. I did not have any kind of plan or any kind of focus. And my mid-career moment, when I felt like I did start to have a focus, I was working with an internationally recognized brand in entertainment, and I was an incredible doer. I was a coordinator. I was an organizer. I could do absolutely anything that my managers put me to. But I kept seeing myself passed over for promotion over and over and over again. And I just kept being in the position of the go-to person to do something that needed doing, but not the person who was going to be leading the team. And I finally had a moment where I said, this is not the life that I want. I do want to be leading the team. I want to be the person who's in charge. I want to be developing new projects. How do I get to that point? And I ended up actually working with two different coaches, one of whom was just a really big ideas, inspiration, mindset, ambition type of coach. And we started putting massive dreams on paper with the idea that I was actually going to be working towards them. And what's crazy now is I look at that original list of just unimaginably cool things that I could do. And I've done most of them.
Yeah.
And I also started working with another coach who worked in the profession that I wanted. He had the job that I wanted, and he was coaching other folks. And we worked really specifically on strategy and accountability and taking action week by week, day by day, month by month. And that started to build something different. And between these two people, I started to be seen in a different light. I started to be seen as somebody that was creating new work, that was ideating new work, and not just someone that was good at following orders. And that changed things in a very profound way for me, both internally and with how people saw me.
What I love about that part of your story is it really is this kind of awakening to understand it's not just about how people see you, but it
Mhm.
is about how you want to be seen, right?
And and how I believed I could appear.
Mhm.
And and it's like a lot of the mindset stuff that we talk about as coaches is a little goofy.
Mhm.
It's a little funny, but it can make these profound shifts if it's paired with action in a specific
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And so when you think about where you are right now, and I love how you are the chief creative officer at producer of everything global, right? And it just kind of, you know, you've got your hand in so many different things. We hear a lot of mid-career professionals talk about, and they'll say, I'm passionate about this. But it
Mhm.
often falls very flat, especially when they're networking or interviewing, because it's that buzzword that gets thrown out there. You think everybody's going to know and understand what that means.
Yeah.
For creative professionals, and even for yourself included in that, what comes up for you when you hear people say, I'm passionate about blank?
That's so smart because the word passion, you do, of course you want to have energy and enthusiasm for the work that you do, but it can also mean that you are unfocused about how to approach something. I'm less interested in people that are passionate about a certain subject than people who are obsessed with solving a problem. And if you are obsessed with solving a certain problem, I know that you're trying different things. I know that you're willing to fail. I know that you're willing to get better in service of something bigger than yourself. But, just passion is, it's kind of a nice to have, not a have to have.
Right. Yeah.
I want you to be excited, but I also don't know, does that mean you're going to talk about it a lot or does it mean you're going to do something? And I want to work with people who do things. And that's also what can make a difference in terms of how you're perceived is, are you a person that's willing to think creatively about how to solve something that's in front of you, rather than just, do it. Like, you can passionately edit a spreadsheet or you can passionately get to inbox zero, but is that going to move a project forward in a substantial way?
So well said. And you hit on such a key point, which is right now, especially for any job seekers, especially mid-career job seekers that are interviewing for positions right now, companies
Mm-hmm.
want to know what you're going to do for them now. Like what are the deliverables within those first 30, 60, 90, 180 days that's going to prove to them that you are the best fit, best candidate, right fit for the job. All the other stuff you've done is important, but they want to know what you're going to do for them now.
Well, exactly. And how are you going to do something that they don't know they need? If you are someone that is going to be looking at the problems of the company you're approaching in a novel way and be able to say, in a constructive way, you do have to be constructive. You don't want to go in and say, well, I think we should burn the house down. But can I come in and say, I think things would be more efficient if we did things this way? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about reaching your customers in this way? Are you bringing something to the table that they don't know they need? And so what I think is going to differentiate somebody from, just somebody that is, I'd say, passionate and skilled. And in some positions, you do want someone who's passionate and skilled. But for your listeners, especially who are in that mid-career moment of saying, I know that there is more that I can be doing with my life, and I don't know how to get there.
Yeah.
Learning how to solve problems in a novel way is part of that process. And so, like, I'm working with a client right now who's looking to do bigger creative work in different industries. And we're looking very specifically about how, like, case studies, how he took a problem and solved it, because in a way that the client could not have done themselves.
In those kind of case studies and examples, I do an exercise with my clients I call story buckets, right? You need to have those things as part of your story because that shapes the way you prepare for an interview because it's how you know your story. If you can't tell your story better than anybody else, you're not doing something right. You've got to be out there doing it. Yeah.
Exactly.
So Megan, one of the reasons, and admittedly a selfish reason, why I wanted to have you on the show here was that you have a tremendous background and knowledge in the theater industry.
Yeah.
I wanna talk with you a little bit about theater and specifically Broadway in general. Broadway's taken a couple of hits.
We've taken a
And
couple of hits.
yeah, so most recently, because of the pandemic, when the world shut down a little over 4 years ago, and also, and I remember this very well when I was working outside of New York City when 9/11 happened.
Yep.
And to this day, one of the best moments I have ever had in the theater was going to see 42nd Street with 40 of my teaching colleagues
Yeah.
after 9/11
Yeah.
and sitting in that theater and sharing that communal experience that we all so desperately needed and craved at that time. When we look at entertainment and
Yeah.
we look at fame and notoriety and celebrity, there are obviously people that come to mind very quickly. There's a lot of people that don't. And in our pre-call, one of the things you shared with me was that the Broadway industry often loses a lot of talent at mid-career.
Yes.
Can you talk with us a little bit about what that specifically means?
Oh, it'll make me cry, but yes.
It'll probably make me cry too. Yeah.
Well, so one thing is, again, to just reiterate what you said, which is that the commercial theater industry and the ability to make a living in the theater has gone through a very, very challenging several years between, obviously the pandemic had to shut down sort of the concept of live entertainment for some time. And it was a number of folks, including myself, were kind of stuck with this. This is my entire life. What am I without this thing that I do? And that became in some ways a good moment of introspection, and in other ways sort of a very arresting moment of, I've got to figure out who the heck I am. I don't know. So, there is just to acknowledge between, the recession of 2008, the pandemic, a number of the ways in which people are trying to drive social change in a very good way, but a disruptive way. And not everyone is adapting to that disruption healthfully. I'll say, on both the institutional and the individual level. And so there's a lot of instability. And for someone especially that is coming into their mid-career, they're really starting to come into their power. You're starting to identify your values. You're starting to identify your beliefs. Surviving in an environment that feels that unstable is a ton of pressure. and just incredibly difficult. So what folks in mid-career entertainment industries are finding is that there are many other ways to make a living other than this industry. And in fact, many of those opportunities can be much more stable, financially, emotionally, logistically, all of those things. We work in, because of the nature of live entertainment, things go horribly wrong all the time, and that's the nature of it.
Sure.
That's not a bug, that's a feature. And during stable times, that can be kind of exciting. Oh no, the set did not get here in time. What shall we do? And you have to come up with exciting and creative solutions. But when pipeline is challenging, when audiences have not come back fully, when the mechanisms of wealth that fund a lot of Broadway are not coming to the table in the same way, it is incredibly unstable. And so I think part of what I had to learn sort of in those early times was also I had to reconcile myself with a life of a lot of instability. And say, if I'm going to do this, I need to be okay with this level of change all the time.
Hey there, we'll get back to the episode in a moment, but I want to give you something game-changing, a golden ticket that is like having a roadmap to take you from career confusion to clarity in minutes. Introducing the Mid-Career Job Seekers Checklist. It is your secret weapon in your job search. And if you feel like navigating your job search right now is like navigating a maze blindfolded, don't worry, my friend, I got your back. This checklist is a powerhouse of organization and preparation, crafted to make you say goodbye to feeling overwhelmed and hello to a career transition made easy. I want you to head on over to johnneral.com to snag your free copy of the Mid-Career Job Seekers Checklist. It's not just a checklist, it is a career compass to help you find that job you're going to love. Now, let's dive back into the episode. So I want to jump in here for a moment because what you just said is going to resonate with a lot of my listeners, in particular because wherever they work, or whatever industry they're in, dealing and coming to grips with owning that instability is a big part of their career journey. And that instability may look like you're going through a reorg. You're going through a leadership change. There's a culture shift that's happening within your organization. And when we look at mid-career and there are people out there who we know they're risk takers or they're risk averse, and they come and they sit here and they say, okay, how much am I willing to take on or put up with at this point in time in my career that's going to help me make a very clear decision?
Exactly.
Right?
And really being okay with the answer.
Yes.
If you are risk averse, that's not a bad thing. That is not a negative. It speaks to what is going to make you most comfortable going through life. And if the answer is I really value stability, just take that as a trait, not as a positive or a negative. Just say that that's an attribute that I have.
Right.
For some professions, I think you do have to reconcile a certain level of risk. And definitely in commercial entertainment, if you are a risk averse person, this will be a challenging environment for you.
Sure.
I mean, there are some professions like, within the marketing universe or like within, I mean, and all the marketers I know are just like, what do you mean? It's incredibly risky all the time. But so, there may be places you can find within that industry that, will help solve that problem. But anywhere you go,
Mhm.
there's going to be massive change all the time.
Yes. So Megan, let's do a little role player scenario here for a moment, okay?
Oh, John.
Am I speaking your language?
I didn't know there would be role
That's
play.
right, exactly. Yes, we're gonna. Right. Okay. So here's the scenario. Okay. Um, you are, let's say you're working with or coaching a potential investor.
Mhm.
Okay. And they're getting ready to produce a brand new show,
Yeah,
whatever that show could be. Okay. I'm not going to put
yeah,
any ideas out there for fear that someone may steal it. Right. But they're going to pitch a new show. Okay.
yeah.
And for the listeners, what I want them to think about is I want you to imagine yourself in a job interview.
Mhm.
Okay. How do you help that producer create a very strong message to secure
Mhm.
funding for their show that doesn't make them come across as being desperate or needy?
Ooh, you are speaking my language. Um, and what I'll sort of acknowledge at the front here is you may be desperate and you may be in need. And for folks in a job interview situation, and certainly, for like myself as a producer, when I've been um, pitching for investment, there are times when I really need the money.
Mm-hmm.
And you also want to create a safe environment for your investor to talk about risk, and for the person at the end of the table to talk about the potential exchange that is going to happen and how what you're bringing to the table. And this is also true of anyone that is seeking funding in a startup position, and who is doing this. What you want to do is let your investor know that you have thought through the problems that they are thinking about. You are anticipating their sense of risk. So, the first question is, why do you think this show will succeed when most don't? And you say, well, I have this incredible team. We have this incredible script. We have all of these people in place to make sure that it's going to be a success. And if it's not going to be a success, we will have done everything we can to make it one. Um, you want to be anticipating what they're worried about. So, and for the investor, it's not just, am I going to lose all my money? It is also, am I going to be treated with respect and dignity? Am I going to be a part of something that feels exciting? Am I going to be a part of something that will bring me joy? Am I going to be a part of something that is going to introduce me to other people? Because I probably have my own um, challenges that I'm working through, and networking opportunities that I want to be in. Um, so you're looking at, like, one, what are the opportunities available? Two, how are you going to solve their risk questions? And three, can you have a sense of humor about it?
Mm.
And this I find is very true, especially for job seekers, is there's a lot of things in any industry that are going to be remarkably challenging and potentially unsolvable. And if I find that if you're able to go into that with a sense of lightness, that's going to immediately make everyone more at ease. So say, like, yeah, this is a wild, bizarro choice we're making here. Let's do it together, you and me.
Yeah.
And I'll find meditation. I'll talk. We could talk about meditation in a bit, but creating a sense of safety and calmness for yourself is important.
When I was listening to you and you talk about anticipating risk, that is such a great point for anybody who
Mm-hmm.
is wanting something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's always risk involved. There's
Yeah.
risk involved in producing a show. There's risk involved in being a professional athlete. There's risk involved in our relationships. There's risk
Mm-hmm.
involved when we go for a new job, right?
Yeah.
But it's our job to help call out those risks. I talk about it in terms of overcoming an objection,
Yeah.
right? Anticipate that objection and call that out and create. And I like how you said about creating that safety for yourself as well as potentially for them to
Yes.
have the clarity and the wherewithal to make a very clean and clear decision. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
so talk to us a little bit about how meditation might help in this situation.
Well, I'll also, one of my earlier career moments, I went through a very, very challenging personal time, where I lost someone very close to me. They died very young and very suddenly, and I was also um, let go from my job also very, very suddenly and surprisingly. And I was in a position where I had to be interviewing for a new job. I needed a new job, and I was angry and I was grieving, and I said, this isn't going to work. I can't go into a job interview crying and yelling. I need to find another way. And that was when I went on my first silent meditation retreat, and finding, it was a full 7 days of silence. And, you could just let everything cycle through your brain. And by the end of it, I did have, obviously, I mean, I was still grieving and I was still going through my feelings, but I had some space around it. And I find that that's what a practice like meditation or mindful movement, there are a lot of ways to be mindful other than just sitting on a mat, but some place where you can achieve some stillness and let your brain process, so that you're not going into an interview, or a networking opportunity in a very reactive state. Because one of the riskiest things, I think, for people who are hiring, or people who are investing in a show or in any of these situations, they want to know that somebody has some stability in their emotions. And so if you go into an interview sitting and you are very reactive and you're hyper vigilant in your responses, that can signal to somebody that you're going to be a wild card and they don't know how you're going to react in stressful situations.
Yeah,
So,
it's a good point.
and it's also, I think just for your own sense of self and safety, to be able to handle some of stressful situations in with a sense of calm.
Got it. I thank you for that, because for anybody who is facing some difficult times at work or in their personal life, and especially those who are looking for a new job, these kind of practices can be extremely helpful, and they
Mm-hmm.
can take on a lot of different forms. I liked how you said, you don't have to be sitting on a mat to meditate, right? There's a
Yeah.
lot of stillness. And in this whole theme of what we've been talking about today, in terms of, kind of like finding the stable in the unstable, it's super helpful. Megan, before we start wrapping up this episode, I'm wondering if I can ask you a few rapid fire questions about
Sure.
your Broadway love and your theater love and everything like that. Is it okay?
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
And remember, I'm a producer of everything. So.
Yes, exactly, right? So I'll phrase it in this way. So be it either movie or show,
Mhm.
if you need a really good laugh, what are you seeing?
Oh gosh. And of course my mind goes blank. Well, it's funny. I just actually go see Water for Elephants. I won't say it's like the funniest show out there, but there is a sense of wonder and joy on the stage that the acrobatics are having and the whole cast is having. So if you're looking for an escape, I think it's just wonderful. Um, there was a show called Gutenberg the Musical, which just had a limited run
Just, yep.
recently, which was absolutely hysterical. Unfortunately, it was a limited run. Um, I'm trying to think of the landscape of like big old comedies right now, and I'm actually coming up blank, which
That's
is
okay. That's all right. No, I mean those are two great shows. I've heard some really good things about Water for
yeah.
Elephants. In fact, a friend of mine saw it and said it kind of reminded him of the revival of Pippin with the
Yes, yes.
circus theme behind it. I saw that production. That was incredible.
Uh-huh.
If you need a really good cry,
The Outsiders. Um,
okay.
I went into that show really expecting not to enjoy it. I am not a huge fan of some of the source material. I just it wasn't for me. I didn't quite get it. I have not sobbed in such a cathartic way in a theater in a really long time. It is so beautiful. The songs are so moving. It is really emotional in the best way. Um, and merrily we roll along if you can get tickets.
Yeah.
I will say, if you are not, if you can get tickets, definitely see Merrily We Roll Along. If you need a show that perhaps has some more accessible price points, go see The Outsiders. It's
Okay.
fantastic.
My husband and I saw Merrily back in December, and
Yeah.
he's a huge Sondheim fan. And I always joke with him because like we'll leave after a Sondheim production, I'll be like, "Well, that was uplifting," and because it just makes you think on so many different levels. But
Yeah.
that production of Merrily was without question outstanding.
It's like a magic trick. It's such
Yeah.
a challenging show.
Mhm.
It's not a very coherent show,
Yep.
but they've managed to make something so beautiful out of this work, and it's really astonishing.
Mhm. Mhm.
I we're having kind of another Sondheim renaissance, and that's a
We are.
wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And this one especially, I think, is pretty spectacular.
If money is no object, and you can sit in the front row to hear someone perform of any age, genre, or style.
Mm.
Who is it?
I mean, probably Audra McDonald. It's a
Oh,
little cliche to say, but she is just the most spectacular performer. There is no one like her, and she's a very cool human being. I've had the opportunity to meet her very briefly a few times, and she's just cool. Um, but we also, there's such a wealth of really great voices
mhm.
out there. Brian Stokes Mitchell is a huge favorite. I One of the first shows I saw when I moved to New York in 1999 was the revival of Kiss Me Kate with Brian Stokes Mitchell and Marion Mazzie, and I have been in love with him ever since. Um, if you ever have the opportunity to see Idina Menzel live, it's
Mhm.
pretty spectacular.
Okay.
Um, I mean, the nice thing about working in this industry is I do have this long list of just unbelievable people. Um, Ava Noblezada, in
Uh-huh.
anything she does, I will follow her anywhere. She's so spectacular. Um, and there's a new show, Limpika, which has, I'd say, the best collection of voices that you will see on Broadway right now. There are so many powerhouses on the stage singing
Mhm.
really well. I can go
Yeah,
on and
I
on.
know. Oh gosh. Well, we had an opportunity to see Audra perform at the Kennedy Center with
Oh,
with the orchestra there. And I remember
yeah.
we walked into the theater and I looked at Richard and I said to him, I go, all right, so what's the over under on how many times I cry? And she sang Stars in the Moon and I cried 3 times in that song
Oh,
alone, which is just one of my favorites. So yeah.
well, she really, there's a connection to emotion that she has, not just with the technical prowess that she has, which is very high, but um, there's also an ease with which she appears to do it. which is what you get when you have great masters, is
Oh,
it looks
sure.
it looks like she's just tossing these out one after another as though she never rehearsed a day in her life. And that's what, makes someone an incredible
Oh,
master of the form like she is.
yeah. Well, for everybody, if you've enjoyed this part of the episode, then then we know you're a Broadway and a musical fan, and we're glad you stuck around here. So, Megan, I could talk about this stuff with you all day, but your background, your experience, your coaching, everything like that is
Thank you.
so powerful, and I appreciate our connection and you coming on to share your story with us today. As we start wrapping up, what advice do you want to leave with the listeners today to help them build their mid-career GPS?
Absolutely. The one of the things that I'll say the most is make sure that if you have ambitions, you are writing them down on paper. Get specific, get excited, and start thinking of the things you want to do as reality. And you can reverse engineer from there. But I'd say, start to get specific with your values and your dreams.
Megan, that's such great advice. I want to thank you for sharing that with everybody. If people want to connect with you, learn more about you, and find you, I'm going to turn the mic over to you, my friend. Share with us all the great places where people can connect with you.
Absolutely. So the easiest way to find me is on my website at poeglobal.com. That's POE global.com. Also on Instagram at Poe Global Productions. I coach individuals one-on-one who are developing new work and who are interested in creative transformation. I'm also going to be starting an initiative for people who are pitching their work, and a safe feedback community where people can talk about pitching and, in fact, pitch live in front of their people. You'll also be hearing about some of the productions I'm working on in the news over the next couple months. So watch that style section.
I'm on it. Megan, I will make sure all of that is in the show notes. But for right now, my friend, thank you so very much for sharing your story and being a great guest.
This is so much fun.
Absolutely. Well, my friends, if there's one big takeaway I want to leave you with from my conversation with Megan today, it's this. We know the mid-career journey is dynamic, but there's going to be parts of it that are going to be and feel very unstable for you. How are you showing up to face that instability, to come from a place of confidence and competence as you navigate toward whatever is next? Megan shared with us some great tips today in terms of processing, reflecting, meditating, journaling, and sorting all of those things out. But one of the things that she said that really stuck out for me, and this is important for you if you're either currently unemployed or you're looking for a new job, it is okay to feel desperate. It is okay to feel needy. It's important to acknowledge what you're feeling, but going into that interview or that networking opportunity to show up from a place of how are you going to help them solve a problem they're facing or a problem they don't even know that they have, that you're going to be able to help them do because of your talent and skills that allow you to be the best you can be every single day. So until next time, my friends, remember this. You will build your mid-career GPS 1 mile or 1 step at a time, and how you show up matters. Make it a great rest of your day. Thank you for listening to the Mid-Career GPS podcast. Make sure to follow on your favorite listening platform, and if you have a moment, I'd love to hear your comments on Apple Podcasts. Visit johnnerrell.com for more information about how I can help you build your mid-career GPS, or how I can help you and your organization with your next workshop or public speaking event. Don't forget to connect with me on LinkedIn and follow me on social at John Nerrell Coaching. I look forward to being back with you next week. Until then, take care, and remember, how we show up matters.